there, Pots people, your perfect nightmare here. So this is my second pasta for causes, and it's called He Smiled. It's about cerebral palsy and is very close to my heart, so I really hope you guys enjoy this narration, and I hope I represent CP accurately. Obviously, everyone's experience is different, but I'm trying to at least vaguely portray some of the things that those affected go through and how it affects everyone around them. Just like last time, I've donated $20 to a cerebral palsy charity, and I encourage you to do the same if you're able. As many of you know, I don't make money on my channel aside from monetization, as I am not a YouTube partner, but if I ever do begin making money on specific videos, I will donate any earnings from a pasta for causes to the cause of that video. Also, just a reminder that tomorrow's the big finale before I leave for 2 weeks, so get ready for that, it's going to be awesome. I hope you guys enjoy the video, as it is a tribute for someone I love, and until tomorrow, I'll see you in your nightmares. Christopher was a happy child for the short time he was on Earth. He only had 15 short years, 11 of which he shared with his younger sister. The most outstanding thing about Christopher was how much he smiled. He wasn't what most would consider a normal child due to his disability. He had a condition called cerebral palsy, an incurable chronic condition that affects the individual's muscle tone, movement, and posture, limiting the amount of control the individual has over their own muscles. This condition can vary in terms of severity, but due to complications during childbirth and brain damage received, Christopher had a very severe form of CP that made him unable to walk or talk. Even eating was a struggle, so all his food had to be pureed. Despite the limitations placed on him from birth, he was surrounded by a family who loved him and cared for him, and that was enough to make him happy a majority of the time. Now, many wonder how a child with such a terrible condition could actually achieve happiness, as it can be difficult or even nearly impossible for those who are not disabled. What people don't seem to consider is that living with cerebral palsy was all Christopher ever knew. He never knew what it was like to be able to walk or use words to express his wants and needs. He never knew what it was like to be able to take care of himself simply because he never could. This caused him to always appreciate the smaller things in life that others seem to take for granted. The sound of birds and songs he liked, the smell of foods, the sudden jolt of his wheelchair when it hit a bump in the sidewalk, the view of loved ones coming into focus as they approached him. For all these little things that seemed so ordinary and minute, he smiled. During his lifetime, he faced many challenges, but the most incredible thing about him was how optimistically he seemed to handle all of them. There were so many instances that many would have complained about, but he couldn't. Like when his little sister would walk into the living room and change the TV channel from whatever he was watching. Why? Because she could. He couldn't stop her or tell on her, and she didn't want to watch whatever it was he was watching at the time. He got revenge on her for such instances, however. There would be times when he would use all the concentration he could muster to intentionally knock toys off his tray. When his sister would stoop down to pick them up, he would grab a handful of her hair and pull up, while laughing hysterically. He didn't have a tight grip, and their mother would immediately untangle them. But when she looked back at him after she was freed from this little display of sibling rivalry, he smiled. One of the challenges family members face when living with a child so unable to express themselves is knowing how they're feeling and what they want. He would cry when he needed something, like food or needed a diaper change. But what about things that he wanted to do? How could they tell if he wanted to listen to a story or watch TV? If he'd rather have a banana or applesauce as a snack? If he'd rather go to the park or sit in the kiddie pool in the backyard? They had many different devices for communication, such as buttons that played the recorded words yes or no that he would press to express what he wanted. Or perhaps they'd record a choice on each button and let him decide that way. Sometimes, his mother would take out 2 pictures of objects representing his choices, and would see which one he would smile at for his decision. One thing they never had to question was how much he loved them. That was so clear in the way his face would light up when he saw them, and the contagious laughter they'd hear while playing with him or reading to him. There were many pictures of him and his sister, and in several of them, his hand was on her shoulder. She would ask her mother if she had put his hand there, and her mother would say that she hadn't. He'd worked hard to move his muscles and put a hand on her shoulder, just to show how much he cared for her. And in those pictures, you guessed it, he smiled. Even when Christopher faced trials that seemingly turned his life upside down, he still found it in himself to be happy. The most prominent example was when he fell down the stairs. A woman responsible for watching him while his mother worked in her home daycare was taking him for a walk and dropping his sister off at her gymnastics class on the way. She forgot to put the brakes on his wheelchair when she turned to lock the door, and his wheelchair began to roll forward, right down the 3 concrete steps of the porch and onto the pavement below. His wheelchair fell on top of him, adding to the weight upon impact. He hit the ground head first, as his sister watched, horrified, unsure what to do, as blood spilled from the wound on his head. The woman responsible for watching him rushed the girl inside, asking his mother to get towels as she ran to call an ambulance. Despite the excruciating pain he must have felt from this injury, he didn't scream or cry at all. He laid there on the pavement calmly, while his family rushed around him, trying their best to help. It wasn't until the ambulance arrived and he was lifted onto a stretcher that he began to scream. Christopher had always hated hospitals, and knowing that he was headed there terrified him. However, after they'd fixed him up and he was able to come home again, his parents wheeled him in the doorway of their home, and he smiled. Christopher's story is one of the most amazing stories I've had the pleasure of experiencing, because his story is also my story. I'm the little sister who he so proudly put his arm around in those family pictures, and I watched him go through all of these trials and complications as we grew up together. My big brother was, is, and always will be my hero. He passed away in 2005, but that gorgeous, bright smile of his has always stuck with me. I still miss him every day, but I wouldn't trade my 11 years with him for a lifetime with anyone else as a brother. Christopher taught me a lesson more valuable than anything anyone has ever taught me, and that's how to appreciate the small things in life, along with the people in your life. You may think that they'll always be there, but you never really know how quickly they can disappear until it happens. My only regret is not realizing it sooner. Christopher was the strongest, bravest, and most perfect person I've ever known. No matter what trials came his way, he handled them, and we knew that even with his complications, we'd be okay. Because no matter what he had to face because of the way he was born,